What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to my channel. As you know, it's your girl, Cravin Cowboys. Thank you guys so much for joining me on this Sunday evening. Shout out to everybody in the building so far. My girl Star, what's up, sis? How you doing? Good, very good to see you, man. Of course, my boy Swain. How you doing, man? I ain't seen you in a minute. Like the first one in the chat. I already know my fave, man. Look, very happy to see you. Hey, JC in the building as well. Look, very happy to see my fam just support me. Look, out from the gate. And I just want to start and say thank you guys for for joining me this evening. It's definitely just been I'm keeping real. It's a process trying to get myself back into getting back in front of the camera. Just being keeping it real. This start of the year has really been just kind of hard for me personally. I lost unfortunately I lost a couple of my dogs kind of back to back early this year. So just kind of a little bit like I came in. I'm sorry, y'all. Just been kind of tough year so far for me, but just trying to get back in front of the camera and kind of get my kind of mind back into this and really trying to get back to what I love doing. I love talking Cowboys. First of all, I know you guys, if you, the guys that keep up with me, I've been on weekly with my sis. We're trying to be on weekly. My sis, a Star, for Star Chasers, for our off-season combos. And I just kind of wanted to come back, kind of put a show together and just kind of give my thoughts on, last week we had the rookie orientation and the guys getting situated at the Star. This past week, getting situated with the veterans. Actually, everybody just kind of being in the building and kind of getting situated with each other, and then really, and really, just it's kind of the first year where I've kind of took, watched more of the coaches' interviews as well. That's kind of what I love about the Cowboys meeting. Not only do we get to see the players' interviews, but we also get to see how they, talk to the coaches. With the hiring of Zimmer. He got to bring in his own guys, and also just seeing their perspective and see how they want to, kind of put their ideas into the players. Of course, with the draft, passing, coming and going, the UDFA's, things like that. And just kind of seeing how these guys want to get their imprint, on these players and how they want the ideas to go forward. So before we get too further into the show, just ask a favor, make sure you guys hit the like button, hit the share button. If you listen to me on Twitter/X, give me a like, give me a retweet, give me a follow if you're not yet following me. And I ain't gonna take up too much of your time. I know it's Sunday evening, so we really gonna just jump right into it. Like I said, my family in the building. What's up, Star? My guys, Swain, JC. I just love seeing you guys supporting me. So, like I said, I ain't gonna take too much of your time. We really gonna jump. Really just jump into it. So, let me see. Still trying to get this situated. Yeah, there we go. Before we get further, let me know if you guys can actually see the show. See the picture. See the words up on the screen. And I'm actually really excited. Just kind of going along with how the year started out. How our team ended up doing at the end of last year. With the loss and everything. But everything's just kind of been. The slate's kind of been wiped clean, if you will. Actually, before we get to the slate's kind of been wiped clean, if you will. These just new players coming in. We have the new draft class, the new UDFA's as well. And we just kind of see, kind of getting a peek at what the Cowboys kind of want to do this year. With the positions they brought in, brought in I think 7 out of the 12 players for the UDFA's are defensive players. They brought in more linebackers, of course, that we know we needed. We were definitely kind of lacking that position last year. Brought in a couple safeties, I believe, as well, and I believe another DT as well. So just seeing that they've actually, in previous years we haven't seen them attack certain positions. With Dan Quinn, in previous years we see him, bring in safeties, of course, bring in DBs and things like that. But seeing them as far as free agents, not just and not just in the free agency market, but as far as UDFA's, bringing in a defensive tackle, bringing in more linebackers than we even seen in the previous years. It's good to see that they've actually taken into account their mistakes, in previous regimes, and hopefully being able to, hopefully doing better. Hopefully do better with the mistakes that they learn from in previous years. Let me see what some of you guys are saying in the chat. Swain says Zimmer low key made it seem like he didn't have the people he wanted just yet. Yeah, I kind of got the same vibe a little bit. I kind of got that vibe from some other people did too, from that first kind of press conference where he was kind of saying things like, it's Mike's choice for Al Harris to to remain here, or and even he said, you can't really get everything you want. We're talking about Jerry and wanting to get your players in the draft and things like that. And I think but also I guess on the other hand, that I also see that he's kind of making do with what he has. Of course, what every coach has to do with what every coach has to do in this league. And just seeing what he was able to do in the draft, being able to bring in, a linebacker in the third round, which I'm sure was a Zimmer pick, and actually, also in the seventh round, being able to bring in a defensive tackle, of course, Justin Rogers, and actually him actually having a good chance, maybe I don't know about being able to start. We have Osa in there in the middle, Mozzie, of course, from last year, but him maybe being able to be in a real rotation early in the season. Of course, he's going to have to go through camp, and they have OTAs coming up actually later this week. But seeing that, even he mentioned like him having a chance to start and just showing the coaches that he wants to play, wants to play tough, wants to be able to show that he can actually stand in there, take those blocks. I'm saying being able to show that he can take and also take, what they're trying to what they're trying to teach them. Also, with the D line, they have a new D line coach, Coach Z, as I'm going to call him. I don't want to mispronounce his name, but I think it's Coach Begonia, I believe it is. Also, and I think something that's going to be a huge element to this season, bringing in Greg Ellis, who's not only a former Cowboys player, but he's coached two teams in Texas, I believe, before getting being able to get an NFL coaching position. So just seeing that these guys who not only have ties with each other, but also have previous ties in the league. These guys are coming in, and that's kind of something. Some of us, I would say, for me, who were was kind of worried about with this hire in the beginning of the off season, wondering what Zimmer, being older, we saw a lot of younger guys being hired, fast, young defensive guys being hired, the guy from the Ravens, I think going up to Seattle, I believe it was, and just seeing other guys being hired, that's kind of what, not saying what Cowboys Nation wanted, but, we kind of, we wanted younger, fresher eyes to come in and see what they could do with our defense. And, even including me seeing Zimmer come in, I was kind of like, older eyes, McCarthy's. That's something they both kind of shout out, in their pressers that they're both kind of older. It's something that I'm sure that they could, kind of come in on the same common ground with. But, so that's maybe something I kind of worried about in the beginning of the offseason, them hiring Zimmer, but just seeing how much familiarity that he already has, not only with the organization, but with the coaching staff, with McCarthy, and also with he's brought in Kendricks, a former player of his, Ellis, who he mentioned that Ellis even went to one of his training camps, in previous years. So just seeing how much they already kind of have, I guess I would say, like a leg up, of the chemistry that they can build. I'm saying, and actually, put these ideas down on paper. And now they have the players, also, early this week with the schedule coming out, they can actually see what type of team that they need to build for. That's kind of something that I'm not gonna say that we haven't seen before, but in previous years, we've kind of had, what the Cowboys were, they've had identities, from previous years. They've had, hey, what's going on, Stephen White in the building? What's going on, fam? What's going on? Definitely good to see you. Thank you for everybody being in the building. Toxic, Splendor, Poppy, what's going on? Yeah, hey man, thank you everybody for being in the building. I really appreciate you guys. Happy Sunday, y'all. It's almost the beginning of the week. I just kind of want to get some of my thoughts out before, like a new, for the new news cycle, starting up again, honestly. But like I said, thank you guys for being in the chat. Appreciate you guys. But yeah, like I was saying, like these guys, like I said, with the schedule coming out, a few days ago, they're able to see, instead of coming into the season, because I mean, really with new coaches, I'm saying new players, they were not yet sure, of course, what the team is going to be going into the season, but seeing, of course, the first few games and just seeing the divisions that we are going to play, we can see what we have to, build towards. Of course, we have to, still continue to try to stop the run as we, like I said, like I mentioned earlier, the pieces that they brought in to try to do that, and also, also seeing, some of some of the weapons that we're going to see down the line as well. We had the Lions before the bye week. We do have Atlanta. They have, I believe, a tight end and a wide receiver. I'm saying, that they picked up. Of course, other teams that I would say, just in my opinion, I know we're facing. I think it's what is the NFC South, I believe, with the Saints, Panthers, and Buccaneers, and the fourth team is for some reason. Oh, I think Atlanta. I think I mentioned that. I'm not sure, but so I'm not saying the schedule is easier because we're facing them, but we're definitely facing a division who's still, in my opinion, trying to find themselves. A new quarterbacks. I believe the Saints picked up a quarterback in the offseason, but these are organizations who aren't yet established. So we may be able to take advantage of some of those games, but they're still going to be coming with a run game, and that's really should be the basis. Where any team should come into the season with was in the run game, and then us having problems with stopping the run in previous years. I'm sure that's something that they're going to come into this year and try to hone in on that. Hey, what's good, JDB boy? Definitely good to see you, fam. What's up? What's up? Happy to see you. But yeah, actually, let me bring up my show let me see, since I'm pretty much discussing it. Let me see. Yeah, so like I said, let me know if you guys can see the show, see the picture. Yeah, like I said, with rookie orientation, these guys are coming in pretty much. What I learned from Girls Talk, Boys Talk is that they're pretty much just learning how to get into the group of practice, right? These guys aren't used to NFL practice yet. And I didn't know this like before that these guys actually go to the training camps, the OTAs, things like that. They got to know what's going on, right? They got to know what this signal means. They got to know what this whistle means. They got to know what when they're changing positions on the field, what side of the field to go to. Who to report to. Things like that. So like rookie orientation, like when you're starting off in high school and all the rookies go a day early or the week before, or whatever. You get to know not only your surroundings, your environment, but also your other rookie counterparts. And that's something else that I found interesting too. That not only these guys can come in and get to know their coaches, find their locker, things like that, but they're also at the same time learning their environment with their counterparts, with their guys that they just got drafted with. So they're also kind of having to learn their mannerisms. They're kind of having to at the same time kind of get acclimated to a place they're not familiar with. So I just randomly caught Swain's comment talking about something. This whiskey got my eyebrows dancing. Like, bro, you a fool. Man, I definitely missed you in the chat, man. What's up? What's up? And JC, yes, like you've been coming with the fire ass like film sessions, bro. Like I just I believe it was the Marshawn Miller line I just saw of yours. And that's something you've always been like fire with is the film sessions, and that's really how I learned like how happy these guys operate on the field because sometimes it's hard to find the film that not hard to find because you don't always go on YouTube, but actually finding good plays, finding bad plays where you want to see both sides. You don't want just want to look up highlights, and you don't want to go to YouTube and type in bad highlights of this player. But I love just watching your breakdown, JC, because not number one, like I said, you break it down, and also you just kind of show like not all the highlights that you would see on a normal highlight video. Also show what these guys can also build upon and work on. And yeah, and Kalen Carson, yeah, shout out to him, DMV guy. I'm a DMV chick out here in VA, so I'm definitely finding out he's from DMV, Maryland, and prayers for Maryland. I'm not sure if the bridge is back up just yet, but that was crazy. Like that was just hearing about that was wild. Something like that happened in the middle of the night. That's crazy. You know what I'm saying? Because my dad used to work out that way, so just when things hit like close to home like that, it's just like wow, you know what I'm saying? So yeah, and Trayvon Diggs being from Maryland as well. So like he said, them having that Maryland connection, like and that just might be like I said, just these little small, like even something as small as having that connection, or like I mentioned earlier with the connection of Ellis and Zimmer having worked together before. Even Mike McCarthy and Zimmer having, of course, played against each other before, but just already having that familiarity with each other. They're already past the niceties. They're already past the breaking the ice. I guess part of the relationship you would have. With new players coming in, you can already just go ahead. Be familiar with each other. You can go already past that phase where you can just come in, start working on your ideas, and let me see. Start going forward. Swain says, "When you're going back to the lounge." Hey, I've been telling JC, like I've been trying to. I've been like, let them know, JC. I've been trying to get in touch with you. Yeah, I definitely got to get back in the lounge soon, though. But I definitely been, like I said, I've been falling off my own channel, y'all. So, like I said, just give me some time. I definitely want to get back to doing collabs, and definitely with JC. Because, like I said, he does some firework, and I'm gonna be back in the lounge soon. I promise you that. But yeah, let me go ahead, keep going. Yeah, and let me like this. That's definitely another thing I'm excited about coming into this year is the offensive line. Like we saw the video with Guyton, working with Manuel. We heard about Terrence Steele working with him as well when he was going through his going through things with his injury. You know what I'm saying? We heard about the other guys being there as well. TJ Bass, I'm sure Brock Hoffman is putting in the work as well. And that's just something that these are just what 4 or 5 guys that is named off of. And these aren't even the starters, on our line. And just just the depth that these. I mean, we saw Jerry Jones talk about it early around the draft time once the first round was over, I believe. That he says, quote unquote, you rob banks. That's where the money is. Like this. They've already. This kind of just been like something the Cowboys have been kind of building off of in past years, right? Having a strong offensive line, something that they've kind of hung their hat on. You know what I'm saying? And building up not only the depth, like they had the depth last year, but we weren't fully aware of how much talent was in that depth until when it was time for them to step up. You know what I mean? It was time for them, when time for them to at game time. When we saw Brock Hoffman, mauling these guys. When we saw him at the I think at the goal line, finishing blocks. I think for Tony Pollard to get a touchdown. So for this and TJ Bass just showing up and showing out. Whenever he was called upon. I mean, let's just be honest. Playing guard, playing center. I don't know if I don't know if he played tackle, but I think he may have played tackle maybe in camp. I'm not exactly sure, but just knowing that these guys, and not just TJ Bass, not just Hoffman, but Cooper Beebe, who they just drafted, played up and down, the offensive line. So just showing and Guyton starting going from the right side to the left side, just seeing how much these guys have position flex to see, and that's something the Cowboys want, right? That's something that they practice with guys that they pick up and guys that they bring in, they try to put them at different positions to see what they're good at. And that kind of the benefit of this of having this right now is that they can take their guys and put them where they want. They can put Guyton at left tackle instead of having to and this is no shot, but instead of having to worry about if Tyron's going to be healthy or not, we have our starting guy who we want to be at that position, and we can start him here now. But we also have the depth, not going to win in case something happens. We have, our starting left guard, Tyler Smith, of course. And of course, we have the competition with BB and, Hoffman and TJ Bass, so they just kind of threw into the mix who was playing, snaps at center last year, but and it actually said that he's going to be in the competition. Just seeing that how much they want to push these guys and actually not just push these guys for themselves, but actually for the team. To actually feel out early how they can, make this chemistry work and actually build upon it early while they actually have the time. Yeah, that's definitely true, JVB. But there's no way Josh Ball will still be on his roster after the preseason. And honestly, I don't even know. Like, I'm not gonna say they're not gonna get any snaps because they're gonna give all these guys opportunities. As much opportunity to do what they can. But with the depth that they've not just had last year, but the depth that they picked up this year, it's with Josh Ball with Let's Go as well. Like I definitely see that it's going to be tough for them not only to get snaps, but maybe even get the opportunities, especially when you have, it's one thing to have great starters on your O line, but to have great depth, and you can't beat that. Like you can't beat that at all. Let's see next on the list. Yeah, like I mentioned earlier about BB playing up and down the line. Him and Maris, like they're definitely showing their IQ. I'm saying their mental prowess early. Like BB talking about he's getting in the playbook early. Before barely even getting into the building. They told him from the jump that he was playing center. So him already trying to get caught up. I think it was McCarthy who mentioned. I think it was actually Schottenheimer. It might have been Schottenheimer who mentioned that, like in the first couple of days of or that weekend of rookie minicamp, that there weren't any ground balls from Cooper Beebe. Like he didn't drop one single snap. You know what I'm saying? So, I just love not only the enthusiasm, but just the intensity, like the will that this class is showing. Showing up. We saw how excited our first round pick Guyton was to just be in the building, to be picked by the Cowboys, but not just him, but we see the excitement from Maris Lewis-Fowl. We see it from Cooper Beebe. We see it from pretty much all our draft picks. You know what I'm saying? We just see them wanting to step up. I think it maybe has something to do with they know that element of competition is going to be there, so they know they have maybe more of a chance to not only show what they can bring to the team, but also competition can bring forth anything and anybody. Like I think we just have these guys. We have these different rooms where we have guys with different talents, and different things, different nuances that they can bring to the game. Just a matter of the defensive side, how Zimmer wants to build the defense, how McCarthy wants to build the offense, how they can mesh those ideas how they can mesh those ideas together, and then build an identity from there. And then at the same time, look at the players you have, look at the nuances that they bring to the game, and decide, kind of like they say, like, choose your weapon, choose, how you want to go forward, choose the player and who best. And even they even said this about the running back room. Like, it's, we could even see it as many as maybe 3 to 4 running backs on the final roster, before the season starts, because they're even saying it could be week to week, how they decide to, attack the run game. Of course, I mean, we're assuming that Zeke may have the starting position, but the way they're putting it, it could be Dowd or who could be featured more. They're saying it's really more about the running back who gets the most snaps. Vice, there being a running back one, running back two, things like that. So, it's really going to be y'all crazy. See it. I'm trying to talk. I'm trying to talk Cowboys, and JB done brought the Diddy giant. Like, yo, that was crazy, y'all. Like, side note, and I ain't even trying to like. I don't even want to say his name because that was crazy. But yeah, prayers for Cassie, prayers for anyone going through domestic violence. Anyone, any man, woman, child, anybody going through that, because that is that is definitely one of the scariest things that anybody can go through. And number one, for it to be shown to the world is really despicable. And I hate that had to come out. But honestly, for it to come out, for it to be the end of his career, to be the end of him, I'm happy in that aspect, because that is crazy. That's someone who we thought, I guess growing up in my generation, who we thought was a music mogul, role model, someone who thought, got out the mud, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, he may have been those things, but at the same time, he's also this, you know, but that's crazy, you know what I'm saying? You really don't know who these people are, you know what I'm saying, until they, until they show who they are. So just like I said, that was wild to see. So yeah, that was that's crazy. Swain talking about some fellas like, well, bro, let me move on, cause that you crazy, bro. But yeah, man, that's crazy. But yeah, it's amazing to see these young guys coming in. Like I mentioned with earlier, Guyton, Nathan Thomas as well. I believe he was our 6th round pick, the guard that we picked up, or the tackle that we picked up. They told him that he was going to be playing more so guard. So I'm wondering if he's going to be following up behind Zach Martin, depending on how long he's going to be here. But like I said, these guys have these they pick up guys who have versatility, right? Like something that we see about. See y'all start BBL drizzle. Like y'all need to stop. See, y'all gonna have me talking about this pop culture stuff instead. Swing, see, you gotta be stopped, bro. You have to be stopped, like right now. Y'all need to be in the chat. Y'all need to be in the chat, like right now. My fave is going off right now, but but yeah, Shout out to Kendrick Lamar, and I'm glad that this is happening to Drake. If it continues to happen to Drake, but anyway, we ain't gonna talk about that. But yeah, that was a long time coming. You know what I'm saying? And that's crazy. All this is crazy. A Cat Williams started something at the beginning of 2024 that no, I don't think any of us expected, but still, look, in May, what is it, May 18th, May 19th, and crazy stuff is still going on. He said it's gonna be it's gonna be the year of things coming out, things showing themselves, and it's only May, y'all. So that's crazy. Anyway, like I said, moving on. Just seeing the versatility, like I said, with Marshawn kneeling, excuse me, being previously playing at safety and moving to the end, like we have, like I said, Cooper Cleveland, and then down the line, he probably could have, they probably could have, made the, had their pick of where they probably wanted him to play, and just seeing that he had these other guys, come in, even the one of the UDFA's, Brevin Span Ford, just his size alone has them stand apart from the other tight ends in the room. But like I mentioned earlier, it's about what you can bring. He specializes in run blocking, but what else can you bring? Like then he can go up and attack the ball, but can you get the mental down? Can you get the playbook down? What are you going to show that you have over Hendershot, who's been here? I'm saying, what are you going to show that you have over even Schoonmaker? Schoonmaker hasn't exploded like that, being a 2nd round pick, but he has been here, whole previous year before Brevin Span Ford. So, like I said, it depends on what these guys can bring individually that that will help them stand out from other players in this room. And just some other nuggets that I learned, or that I'm sure that we all learned from that weekend. McCarthy talked about Zeke learning a new protection system, and that's something that I think was mentioned early in the offseason. Well, not early in the offseason, but I guess I said a couple of weeks ago when they first signed Zeke, they were kind of talking about what could be, what could, if Zeke isn't quote unquote the starting running back, who else in the running back room could have, a leg up, and Dowdle was brought up because he's familiar with the pass blocking scheme that McCarthy implemented last year. Ooh, excuse me, I'm sorry, please. So that might be something that he has a leg up on, like and Dowdle has been here previous years with Zeke. So, and I'm sure these guys will look at it, as a competition. But of course, it is going to be a competition, and these guys are going to try every advantage, or should be using every advantage that they have to be able to bring forth the best for the team. You know what I'm saying? And as they say, if it's going to be a week to week thing, you know what I'm saying. So and depending on who the opponent is, like they said, if we're going to be going against, let's say, let me see. Actually, let me see if I have the schedule up. While I'm talking about it. But yeah, if we're going to be going against defenses like the Lions, and they have these tough D lines, you know what I mean, or the Saints. Saints have always had a stout, at least edges. They've have always had kind of a stout D line too as well. So depending on what team we're going to be up against, are we going to need, are we just going to be, holding off Zeke until we get to the 10-yard line, until we get to the red zone. Now I think I seen an article written by shout out to Patrick O.C. Walker. I think he had an article that said that just last year within the 10-yard line or within the red zone that the Cowboys only averaged less than 2 yards a carry. You know what I'm saying? So just that's just it's for us the Cowboys to have a run game the previous year, just having those numbers, and we can blame it on us losing Zeke. There was plenty of opportunity to get Pollard, to get. I mean, Hunter Lipke, we saw in the Miami game. There were plenty of opportunities for us to get, in the end zone. Even Dowdle, I think he fell short of a touchdown off the screenplay. So just there was opportunities there, even after the return of the running backs coach. There were opportunities. So it didn't just fall on the personnel. It could fall on the play caller. McCarthy stalling out in the red zone, and not just red zone, and goal to go situations. When you're at third and goal, fourth and goal, but you're at the 20. What I'm saying? When you're having to rely on your field goal kicker to finish off the drive for you, you're leaving points on the field. So, at that point, that's when we have to ask ourselves, what's missing? Do we have, like me and Star talked about, on many of our shows, last year, was it the personnel? Was it the scheme? Was it play calling? Like what is it that was missing? So now we see bringing back Zeke, someone who, and even Jeff Velasco, the running backs coach mentioned, and it came out and admitted that, yeah, we did need someone who could bash there, in the red zone, in that 10-yard area right there, someone who can punch that ball and, with no question. I mean, let's be honest. So, other nuggets we learned, like I mentioned earlier, BB was known that he was playing center, and of course the running back by committee, that we've been talking about. So it's just things that McCarthy mentioned that he's already familiar with that. Being in Green Bay, just in his last few years in Green Bay. Of course, we know he played with Dylan and Aaron Jones. You know what I'm saying? So having those two back combinations, that's something really that could be different for the Cowboys going into this year. That in previous years, up until we could say up until Zeke left, we've been known to have maybe a primarily number one, and we had duo running backs, as of late, but really best known for having a dominant running back. All the way back to, of course, Emmitt Smith, as we all know, Marion Barber, I think Julius Jones, DeMarco Murray, guys like that, Zeke Elliott. You know what I'm saying? So it's always kind of been, always running our ears about having a dominant running back one. So even um, as early as Senior Bowl, not knowing what we would do on the draft, not knowing we're going to draft the running back, and then passing the draft and not drafting, but we did get Nathaniel Pete, as far as UDFA's, but so we have a room full of running backs, but we're still unsure of what our run scheme, of what our identity is actually going to be as far as the run game. So But like I mentioned earlier, we do have the time, or they do have the time to figure this out. But it's also, and now you have a look at the schedule, you know who you're going to be facing, but it's also a matter of, who are you going to be when it comes down to it. And you have to go up against these defenses. Who are you going to roll out there? Who are you going to, carve a roll out for? Is it going to be, because just like with the offensive line, just like on offensive line, you got to have chemistry. You got to have that chemistry also flows with the running backs. Number one, they got to know the pass protection, and number two, they got to have enough reps on the field, so that way they don't have the mishaps like in the Miami game with Lipke dropping the ball. You know what I'm saying? Like so that they don't have they don't have these mind parts like we saw last year from Truman Doga. You know what I'm saying? At times I think in previous years we saw Malik Davis, I think, kind of with on some pass protection, in the past. And even I mean I think a couple of years ago, Pollard's gone now, yes, but there were times where he wasn't 100% on pass blocking. Even Rico Dowdle having to pick up these pass blocks, and he got better, last year. So just hopefully seeing these guys, pick up just these small things can make a big difference. But also, they have to. I think the coach had to err on the side of caution of not mixing it up too much week to week, literally week to week, because yeah, that can work, but what are you really establishing if you're not establishing chemistry? What are you really doing? Yeah, Stephen White, I completely agree with you. Like us not getting Benson. Now, and the granted, yeah, we did have a fourth round pick. And I'm not sure where they could have, because I have to admit, what Stephen Jones said does make sense. Like they had to stick to their board. They had to, when it came down to the moment who they had to pick. I'm not mad at our draft picks at all. Because I definitely think we just had a lot of holes to fill, honestly, and I think they just had to address the holes. Of course, as kind of just like triage. You know what I'm saying? Address the most important hole first. I'm saying I just think, I'm glad they did pick up an undrafted running back, but at the same time, yeah, like Benson, I'm sure Benson was on top of a lot of people's lists. And yeah, shout out to Hunter Lippy. Like he definitely showed some flashes last year. I'm definitely excited to see him again this year because I think he, definitely showed. To me, he kind of like how like Jalen Brooks kind of showed out. You didn't see a lot Jalen Brooks. You didn't see a lot from Hunter Lipke, but what you did see flash. You did see progression. Hell, he even forgot to. I think Dak had to give him the ball when he scored his first touchdown. He was that fresh. That wet behind the ears. That he's so excited to score his touchdown. And he had to to get that recognition from your quarterback. He's going to see more snaps this year. So just seeing how these guys even just these little flashes can be important. Like, you know, we may look at the difference between Zeke coming in, quote unquote, competing, and Hunter Lipke, excuse me, coming in competing. And you may of course go with Zeke, but at the same time, you got to look at, maybe when you compare Hunter Lipke and Malik Davis, or Hunter Lipke and Royce Freeman, or Hunter Lipke and I think Snoop Connor is his name. So he may have a leg up on some of these other guys in the room just because when he's been here, he's been in this scheme, and also he's been in playtime situations in these big moments where yes, he had a moment where he failed, but he also had a moment where he succeeded. So he's experienced both sides, and he also has I'm not gonna say more experience than maybe a Royce Freeman, because maybe in this particular system, maybe with what McCarthy wants to do. You know what I'm saying? He wants to. Stephen White says, "I'm not like us." Hey, y'all wilding. Yeah, that song is heavy in my rotation, and definitely will continue to be. But yeah, let's keep going, y'all. Oh yeah, and this is the UDFA's as I mentioned, and honestly, y'all, this list is more so for me. You know what I'm saying? Just for me, so I can stay active, or stay actively looking at these names, so I can get familiar with them. By the time camp rolls around, and also so I can deep further dive deep into these guys' film and maybe seeing what they can contribute. Like I said, then bringing on defensive tackle and bringing on a lot of these guys on the defensive side. You know what I'm saying? That's something that McCarthy mentioned, like, earlier in one of his early sit downs in the offseason with the press. Like, yeah, the first 3 rounds weren't all defensive players, picks, but, I'd be damned if this, second, was the third round pick, and then later round picks from on the defensive side. And then, as you see with the UDFA's, how many guys they brought on the defensive side. So just like when they brought in Quinn, like not saying they, you know, not saying they acquiesced to all of Zimmer's, requests, but we see he got a little bit of leeway. You know what I'm saying? He was able to bring in some of his guys, coaching guys. You know, saying they were able to bring in. I also forgot Nealon, our second round pick. Nealon and Marist, both coming in for Zimmer, and then him being able to bring in Greg Ellis, Coach Z. You know what I'm saying, telling them, letting them know that, hey, Nealon is going to be for y'all. Demarcus Lawrence can take him under his wing and see how he can shape and mold him at the same time. So, the development of this team, definitely, has a very high ceiling right now. Yeah, Stephen White, I agree with you. Bigger and better, Hunter and Spooner. Yeah, I agree. Like this could be a good second year, I think, for Schoonmaker and Lippy. Just like I said, because they have shown flashes on the field, and they definitely both, have plenty of room, to improve as well. They definitely have things that they both have to work on, but they've shown that they have the mental capacity and also the physical prowess on the field to show that they can handle these high pressure moments. Yeah, a Schoonmaker may have, missed like a critical touchdown, but he was there, when he needed him. Like granted, he needed one more inch, but he was there. He caught the ball. Hunter Lippy was there at the goal line. Unfortunately, he dropped the ball. But these guys show that they are willing and ready to step up for the moment. They just gotta shine through. They gotta keep, progressing through. Finish, follow through with the moment. Yeah, and to help ship too. Yeah, yeah, as well, definitely. And that's something I think that Brevin Spanford can bring as well. 'Cause, he brings a good blocking game as well. So that's definitely we can always, something that we can, always improve on with is definitely blocking, especially with, yet again, a newer O line, coming through trying to protect our quarterback. We can definitely use that at all times. But yeah, moving on to next topic. Of course, we finally heard from Zimmer. This is something I was wondering about how long it would be before we actually heard from him because week to week we hear McCarthy. We of course we hear the Jones family, the Jones on the phones. 105, 105.3 the fan. Excuse me, sorry, I knocked my phone over. But yes, we hear them week to week, but something that someone that I've been trying to hear from, and I'm sure everyone else has been Coach Zimmer, and on the Doomsday podcast, and to be able to finally hear some of his ideas, what he wants to do with Micah and Mozzie, and of course how he wants his coaches to have kind of have their hands on the players, so that way, kind of how I took it, them have their hands on the players, so he doesn't have to. You're kind of like the less he has to worry about. You feel me? So it was good that he's gonna be able to come in and kind of have these, kind of how like McCarthy, would tell, kind of manage his guys, how he wants the players to be, it's kind of like a term I heard earlier, coaches, coaching coaches. You know what I'm saying? It's not only the players learning, but the coaches, learning as well. Like we have, quote unquote coach with Kendricks, they brought in for the linebacker room, you know what I'm saying? Because we really didn't have a vet, in the linebacker room, really as of last year, in the last couple of years. So just seeing that they're taking these small steps, bringing in guys, like I said, who can have more of a hands-on approach, with these players. Coach Z, Paul Gunter, Greg Ellis, like these guys who know what it's like to work with Zimmer, who can. That way, Zimmer doesn't have to deal with each player individually. These coaches can let them know what he, prefers to happen on the field. You know what I'm saying? So that way, he doesn't have to, hammer it in every player individually. So he mentioned his goals, stop the Ops from scoring pretty much, lower the points of the opposing team. Going back to having, turnover. That's something that the defense was doing in previous years with Dan Quinn. Last year we definitely went away with that. Definitely went away from that. Didn't have as many stacks. Not saying stacks are even important to Coach Zimmer, but it's definitely more so for him. Definitely more so about holding down that middle, like he mentioned plenty of times, and really his plan with Mozzie Smith going forward. Handling those blocks, handling those double teams, trying to stop the run with the Cowboys have trying to doing for years. So we're going to see, once again, what kind of philosophy, what kind of scheme he's going to bring in, how he's going to use Mozzie now that he's, put weight back on. We do still have Carl Davis. Like I mentioned earlier, we brought in Daxon, the defensive tackle. It was definitely unfortunate for us to lose Hankins, but I think, hopefully we definitely still have Osa. So Osa going into, I believe it's his fourth year, and he's definitely still maturing, and he can we're going to see what they can bring. But we're going to see what they can also do with these vets. It's not just about these rookies. And Zimmer mentioned that it's not just about one player. It's not just about how he can shape and mold Mozzie. It's about how he can also how these other vets can also step up, even if they're in their third or fourth year. These guys can still be complementary, to the game. They can still learn a thing or two. You can still up their game. You can still work on the little details of the game. You can still work on hand position. You can work on intensity. Getting in the weight room. You know what I'm saying? Changing something mentally, maybe changing something that you did in previous seasons that maybe that you can hone in just a little bit more, just kind of up your game just a little bit. Like, what can every player, not just the rookie, not just a UDFA, not just someone trying to earn a spot on the team, but what can every player learn from this coaching staff, and what can they bring to the team? And I think that's something that's not just going to be prevalent just because of something that Zimmer is bringing in, but I think it's going to be important because with the element of competition, that's what's going to separate these guys. Like I mentioned earlier, these guys are kind of each guy's bringing like everybody in the NFL is bringing their own kind of thing, to the game. So what's going to make you stand out? He also talked about his plan for Micah, having it either off the edge and the A gap or in the backfield, also using Maris Leafau in this pressure packages, having him come off the edge. And I think this is interesting, just because like I mentioned, last year, linebacker room, as everyone knows, was lacking, but not only for Maris and not only for Kendricks who we brought in, but also for Damone Clark. I'm saying he definitely showed, in his first year, he showed that he can be, a good smart player, someone who can find the ball. But just last year, he was playing kind of out of position. It's kind of hard for him to find the tackles, but that'll be good for him too. He'll be able to learn not just from Zimmer, but learn from Kendricks. Teach him where to be on the field, so that way, if this, which is more likely to be Kendricks' only year here, after going forward, that Damone and Leafau can, take what they've learned and, and going forward, it just exudes some of these things that they're learning from Zimmer and Kendricks at the same time. And not only can Damone, you know, learn more about himself as a player, he'll also be able to learn what he's actually supposed to be doing on the field instead of being played out of position or being played to where he doesn't want to step up and make those tackles. He actually be able to learn where he's supposed to be on the field and actually have a veteran to put him in that right place instead of just playing how he think he should be playing. And then there's these other side notes, that I kind of got from Zimmer's press conference, and these may even just be just like little small things, but there's something I noticed that he said, something that McCarthy said as well, that him and both Zimmer both mentioned how the scouting department did very well, with the draft process, finding these guys, even just from the beginning, finding these guys, finding these pieces who I think are right for their system, right? And both McCarthy and Zimmer spoke about how this is really like one of the first time they've, number one, been this involved in the whole process, and also just how thorough and how, just how really just how wonderful the scouting department has been as far as finding these guys and finding the right pieces. Of course, we know Will McClay, and he works with, and also the stat department as well, letting them know the numbers that they need to work on. So I just think that's something that, should be recognized. Of course, we already know, and that's something that the media did as well, having the interviews with some of these scouts during the actual draft process, and some of these coaches as well. That was definitely, interesting to listen into, how they talk about how they went to the Texas pro days, Oklahoma pro days, Alabama pro days, things like that. And just, showing what they had to go through, the long drive that they had to make, when trying to find these players and driving back and then taking notes when they do get back, and just these long days these guys have to go through. Just kind of how, like, football players and coaches have a long football season, during the football months. And during the off season, when these guys, they're working during football months as well, finding these guys. But they're also putting in that extra work leading up to the draft. So just, shout out to the scouting department, Will McClay, the stats department who finds these guys out there who could possibly fit, the Cowboy scheme, even going into before they even find an identity, before they even find a scheme of what they want to do or who they want to be. When these guys have to, get a leg up and find these guys ahead of time so they can hopefully get with them in the draft time. And that I'm so glad you brought that up, Stephen White. Yeah, Fahoko was definitely a player, and I've mentioned that plenty of times on me and Star show that Fahoko was definitely going to be a guy that I definitely want to see him. In last year's preseason, they had him working on the inside, they had him working off the edge. I think just trying to see of what suits him the best. But I think I'm very excited to see him. Unfortunately, I think he was just like a healthy scratch late in the season last year. But I think he's going to be right there alongside Neal and Sam Williams. What I'm saying? Of course, we still have Mike who's going to be playing off the edge every now and then. I just think that these guys, just the time that these guys have put in this off season, and that for Hope, just speaking on him, I'm sure he's been putting in time during the season last year. So being able to also learn at the same time, I think he's going to come to the system this year just a little bit more prepared, just like anybody would be in their second year, and hopefully be able, and of course have more of a chance to start now or be able to be more in the rotation, with guys like Dante Fowler or Dorn Armstrong, being gone, and of course with D-Law maybe potentially being on his last year. Fahoko was definitely going to have more time to be in the rotation, right alongside with Nealon and Sam Williams. So it's definitely going to be interesting trying to see, how they decide to use him. Chauncey Golston, they still have him as well. It's going to be, to see how they use, just really just going to be interesting how this D line is going to be, number one, taught differently by guys like Coach D and Coach Ellis. Also to see what kind of plan that, Coach Zimmer is going to have going forward. And just a last note on Zimmer's press conference, he also mentioned being able to see his family, his grandkids, as any grandpa I'm sure would love to see. And I just think that's something else that not saying the Cowboys particularly pay attention to things like that, but that's something that Will McClay mentioned about having the Senior Bowl be at Dallas this year. Then being able to go through this whole entire process, but in your hometown, being able to sleep in your own bed, being able to be close to home, so you're not having to make those long drives like scouts have to do during the year. So we talked about that last year with the players with their home games, but we know the Cowboys schedule gets crazy during the year, but being able to some of those home games are having those stretches where you don't have to travel as much. Being able to sleep in your own bed, or like with McCarthy, they mentioned last year, him allowing the players, that freedom to be able to, be responsible on the weekend, and being responsible enough to report back on Monday, but also giving them the freedom to speak to their family, because that's important, because especially during the football season when you're already having to be away from your family. Let me see. My last couple slides I have for you guys. Not too much left. I'm, just some final questions, going into the season, it just makes you wonder whether or not, this is a new draft class, it's a new shiny draft class, Tyler Guyton, Cooper Beebe, these guys, are standout guys, but, where does this leave, the 2023 class? What I'm saying? Not saying that these guys don't have a chance to start, you know what I mean? But, we, like I mentioned earlier, guys like Schoonmaker, even Deuce Bond, and I'm sure they have, you know, more of a stake and more of a chance of getting a spot, but guys like Josh Ball, Matt Walesko, Malik Davis, Deshaun Wright, I'm saying? These guys are more than likely on their last leg, kind of like a last chance, last attempt type thing where these guys have to show what they have. Like it's a lot of guys coming in this year. Like I said, even with the 2023 draft class, we have guys who didn't have yet a chance to play, like Fahoko, like we were just talking about, or like Awesome Richards, who hasn't had that much of a chance to, to show what he can exude, you know what I mean? Or let me try to think of another, like Jalen Brooks. We talked about him earlier, but he showed flashes, so he's going to have a leg up maybe on some of these UDFA's coming in, or maybe like let me try to think, like Martavius Bryant. They actually got rid of him, I think about a month ago, but maybe just some of the other wide receivers who I'm not gonna say the draft pick from this year. But, this wide receiver room is going to be deep once again. I'm trying to think of. I can't really remember right now. But I just think their main focus is going to be, something that me and Star kind of talked about on our show. Like, who are they going to find? Like, yeah, we have Brandon Cooks, at number 2 wide receiver. I'm saying, of course, we have CD, but who's going to be that number 3? I'm saying we shout Tolbert all day, but let's just, Tolbert hasn't, Tolbert has shown, definitely shown flashes, but for going from his second year, only showing flashes, can't always be good. You know what I'm saying? So let's see what he can show in his third year. You're saying, Gallup, we know he went up to the Raiders. So we're going to actually see if Tolbert can and will hold down that wide receiver three spot, because we have the draft pick Ryan Flournoy coming on. We do have the UDFAs that we did bring on. You know what I'm saying? So, all these guys, all these rooms, the running back room, the wide receiver room, they're like I mentioned here, they're going to be heavily competing for these starting spots, more so on the defensive side. I think just with the guys we've lost, the free agency, just I think there's a lot more spots opening up for these guys to be potential starters. But definitely on the offensive side, like I mentioned with the offensive and off the offensive line as well. So these are some deep positions that we have, some deep rooms that we have right now. So I think the competition is going to be a little bit more thicker, a little bit more thick on the offensive side. You know what I'm saying? So these guys are definitely going to have to show up and show out. And not just the 2023 class, but Brock Hoffman. They just threw TJ Bass in there with the center competition as well. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure Brock Hoffman, who I'm speaking about, I'm not sure he, you know, maybe thought that he was going to have to compete. You know what I'm saying, with a Cooper Beebe coming in, playing center, or even TJ Bass. I'm sure that he maybe. I thought that TJ Bass was going to stay at guard. So just seeing that they're really trying to get as much out of Bass, as much out of Hoffman as they can. To really push these guys to see what their true potential is. You know what I'm saying? I think that's something that's going to ring true with all these players. They're trying to. I think that's something I've heard amongst these coaches and players, that they're trying to maximize these guys' talents. And even Gotti mentioned that, coming in on the first day, like saying like the coaches just, want to see what I'm good at, see what I can do, see what my strengths are, and see what kind of position they can put me in, to be able to get the best out of me. And I think that's what they want to do with all these players. It's like something else you always want to do, of course, but it's going to be a very important, like I said, with the different things that these guys are bringing to the table. It's definitely going to be important. And this is my last slide. Just a couple questions just going forward, not yet going into camp, but we do, they do have the OTAs coming up, the vets, finally getting with the rookies for real, getting into the building. I don't know. I think they're going to be putting on helmets, but, we're going to see, how it looks, once these guys, hopefully be able to see some, through the media, but see how these guys look out there, of course, not full speed, but just getting another first-hand look at these guys. But just some questions I had, just kind of up in the air questions, just things to think about, leading up to the season. What would this year look like? What I'm saying? Like I mentioned earlier, competition is going to be, amongst many of these rooms. But even with this quote unquote lame duck year, can this be, a foundational year? If you will, like we have, a new coach coming in with Zimmer, who already has chemistry with McCarthy. But what can they build? What can they start? What I'm saying? McCarthy kind of mentioned something I like, like hearing, is that he said, yeah, every year, it should be, it's really year to year if you think about it with these coaches, whether you have a new job or you're going into your 10th year in coaching, and you still have to go in with, a new idea, new fresh eyes, new, not necessarily a new scheme, but newer ideas, and try to help progress, your ideas, because you can't keep doing the same thing every year, because you're going to get figured out. So what change can you bring? So I think that, as you guys can see in the title from our show, like if the Cowboys are entering this, quote unquote, no nonsense era, like we heard Coach Z mention that he's going to bring a kick in the ass to these players, or they're kind of talking back and forth about how Zimmer is known to be a tough guy. Being hard on the players, things like that. Has anyone experienced that yet? So it's of course we know it's kind of going around. It's the rumblings in the building. We saw how he was in previous years with other teams he's been with, but that's just something that the players have said that they're prepared to to deal with it. The coaches have said they've already seen it. They've already had to deal with players on the field making mistakes, and they said that they deal with it accordingly. So it maybe could be something that these players need, and at the same time it could be something that the organization needs. Maybe a fresh a fresh identity, maybe a fresh intensity, maybe just a fresh approach to how they're going to address these teams. I don't want to say problems, but hey, like yeah, if you're getting bullied on the field, how are you gonna deal with that? If you're getting intensity from the coaches, maybe that might put some intensity in you, to be able to affect on have an effect on the field. Troy Dudley says, "Make me a mod." Stephen White's out of control. What's up, Troy? Hey, thanks for being here this evening, fam. Good to see you. But yeah, like I mentioned, like how another question I had: how will a new or change in philosophy impact the roster building? Like even Stephen Jones mentioned earlier in his offseason saying that a newer philosophy could open up doors for maybe guys who didn't have opportunities before. So maybe someone who didn't quite fit into Quinn's philosophy or scheme, or I mean, dare I say even Mozzie? I'm not saying he didn't fit, but this whole going back and forth, not going back and forth, but in the media, they're asking questions like, why didn't it work for Mozzie and Quinn's system? Or was it something that Quinn, they're not saying this, word for word, but I'm just paraphrasing, but they're saying, what didn't work with for Quinn's system for Mozzie or things like that, what can y'all do better? Or just because y'all going back to what he did in college, is that going to be better for him? So, we're going to see, and not just that, with Micah as well, so we're going to see if Zimmer can use Micah in a different way or a more effective way, and not just, coming off the edge. Can he be effective in the backfield? Is he going to be able to, be effective in stopping the run? Is he going to be able to not just be, Micah, but can other players be able to step up as well and, do their job as well? Are they going to be able, are all players going to be able to execute their job so that way the next player can win? You know what I mean? But other questions, will the young players buy in? I don't even think that's a question at this point. I think it kind of goes without saying these young players that come out, some players have said, Wanye Thomas, and he wants to be coached. We hear the young players coming in, the rookies themselves saying, they're already in the playbook. They want to, Maris Leofau saying he wants to be there to serve his teammates. He wants to be there to, understand, and he's already understanding other jobs in the field. So that way, and he said that if anybody, he said it was pretty much in his background. You know what I'm saying? At Notre Dame to know other jobs. So that way, you're not only up on your job, but you're up on the next person's job. So if anybody has any questions, you can help them out too. It's about being a team. And for a rookie to come in with that mindset already, maybe he can, maybe even show up better in that. It's important to be up on to be up on your stuff. I'm saying, because don't let a rookie show you up. You know what I mean? So, you never know what kind of effect that these young guys can even have on these vets, and vice versa. What's up, Eastside? Always in the building. Like I knew I could kind of even be like you weren't even here in the first hour, but look, an hour and 1 minute, you still in the building, fam. What's up? Good to see you, though. Good to see you. Can't wait to see y'all later in the season too. I think it was week 11. They said we play Texans, so you got about starting in September. You got about 11 weeks talking mess before we lay down that whooping on you. It's Sunday, so I'm trying to keep my language. Trying to keep it clean today, guys. But yeah, just lastly, yeah, some of these guys, like I mentioned earlier, guys like Izzy Mukwamu, Malik Davis, like just a lot of these guys, and I would say it's put up or shut up for some of those guys who may be on their last leg. But I will say overall, like I think competition is really, really just tightened for everybody around the Cowboys. It's not just about okay, you haven't shown anything in years, it's time for you to go. But it's also, even if you just got here, like, what kind of work ethic are you putting forward? Are you in the books? Solari and Zimmer both talk about, the guys taking notes. If you're going to be taking notes, are you just scribbling things down? They're checking these guys' notes, checking behind them. And it's not about, being their teacher. It's not about, cleaning up after them, but it's about making sure that they're paying attention. And so that way it's effective in their mind. So that way it can be effective on the field. And then, of course, lastly, like I mentioned earlier, Mike McCarthy and Zimmer. I just think it's, before we get out of here, like I said, I just think them having the familiarity with each other, and not just Zimmer and Mike McCarthy, but also with Greg Ellis, Coach Z, Paul Gunther, Hendricks coming in as well. Just the familiarity with the coaching staff, I think will kind of give them a leg up a little bit. Of course, it's going to be tough I don't know. I don't know in what ways it may be tough. It may be tough in communication. Everyone being on different pages, maybe at different times because it's new coaches. Everyone trying to get their ideas across. But communication is going to be very important coming into this year. Um, what's the other one I'm looking for? Technique is going to be important as well. That's something that Zimmer mentioned that he wants to get technique down, fundamentals down. Like it's about the basics. So even one of the I think the DB's coach Cannon Matthews mentioned that already that Zimmer's already holding these guys accountable. With the details, with the small things, with even if they're already coaching the rookies, like are they paying attention in practice? Are you paying attention to what the signal means? Like, do I have to tell you two, three times? I'm saying, do I have to speak to you, more than once about one thing? You know what I mean? So it start off with those things, and then it, could grow to things like, are you getting this scheme down? Are you getting this play call down? Are you familiar with, the verbiage, things like that? So I think it starts from here. I'm saying it's I'm not gonna say it's a long road, because it's gonna go by very quickly. I'm saying I'm sure training camp, it'll be here in no time. I think 3 months, so about 4 months, before the season starts. So it's gonna catch up. It's gonna creep up on these guys, sooner than they may think. So it's definitely about and it's no surprise that some of these rookies are in here early. That some of these vets were in here when the season ended. Like McCarthy mentioned, Jake Ferguson being in the weight room pretty much when the season ended. So it's really about how early you want to get a jump on your own job, and then also about how effective you really want to be, for your team. You know what I mean? So I mean that's pretty much all I have. I'm really really I would say, like I said, like I think I mentioned this on me and Star show before I get out of here, that for me it's not necessarily about Super Bowl or NFC Championship even. Honestly, like I definitely have faith in my team, but this year is more so about embracing the newness, like embracing the youth, you know, um, and embracing what you're saying. What different talents can be brought out of these players? What different ideas can be formed from this new coaching staff, from these new guys. Number one, trying to lay their own foundation, but also at the same time trying to build a foundation for the team going forward. You don't want to look at any year as a one single year, one lame duck type. We're starting over next year anyway. Only focus on this. You do want to build. You know what I'm saying? I don't think any coach goes into a year thinking that they only have to think of that year. They're not thinking about the future. You know what I mean? So yeah, Stephen White. Yeah, every game is a good matchup, and that might be something maybe me and Star can do next week, or maybe I do a show later on this week about the schedule release. But JV says what's the new scheme and philosophy? Yeah, I think we're gonna get more of an eye on that. I think once OTA start, I think like I said, like I mentioned earlier, Zimmer has said that he wants to lower opponent scoring. Get more of a leg up on turnovers. Get back to taking away the ball. And I think with McCarthy, as far as McCarthy, I know it's his second year play calling, and I'm sure he's not going to come in with the exact same, scheme as last year. Hopefully, he'll be able to, try to improve the run game. And we're going to see, whether they're going to, stick with the quote unquote, West Coast type, football, West Coast type, football strategy, trying to, get down the field with four passes, or if they are going to start using more of the running backs, trying to get down the field, or because early last year he did try to establish running the ball, but we were in so many every now and then we were so in so many ball situations, we weren't really running the ball like that, or we couldn't, or if we did, it really was a moot point. You know what I'm saying? So hopefully this year, we're definitely going to have the opportunity to, start off with running the ball, but we're going to have to definitely establish that in preseason slash, training camp as early as that, because yes, we're going to begin some strong defenses starting out, but it's gonna be interesting to see what, like I said, to see what kind of scheme and philosophy that they do come up with. I think Zimmer's. I don't even want to guess because I'm not wholly familiar with Zimmer's background as far as what defenses that he ran. Yeah, but definitely just seeing the pieces that he has brought on, seeing that he's brought on these more linebackers, a couple of DTs, and still having Carl Davis. And I'm saying so. He likes his he likes his front seven to be stout, and of course his DBs. Of course, he's going to have his hands on them. With Coach Al Harris, that's another thing. That may go under the radar. It's not just a learning curve for the players, but like I mentioned earlier with the coaches. Al Harris being able to work with Mike Zimmer, them both having backgrounds working with DBs. Harris has already produced two back-to-back players who have led the league in interceptions. So let's see what other advantage that Zimmer can bring to that room. We have Kalen Carson, Deron Bland still young, still doing this thing, and that's something. Just something I kind of, watching some of these players' interviews, like Kalen Carson, kind of. Not saying he gives me like Bland vibes, but like Bland just kind of keeps it short, kind of sticks to the point. Like in interviews, he just kind of keeps it short and sweet. Like I kind of get those same vibes from Carson. Like I feel like he's gonna, as he's done before, just kind of let his game kind of speak for him, and just kind of do his work on the field. And then it's for me, for him. Well, for me, about him, it's more so about playing. Less talk, more playing. You know what I mean? So I'm kind of getting that kind of vibe from him, just kind of watching some of his interviews, honestly. But I think him learning from Trey Diggs, Ron Bland, and Harris, and getting tips from Zimmer every now and then, I think is really gonna, especially being so young. These guys all seem like they would just want to be a sponge to soak up as much info as possible. So I think that these young guys can really go far. But it's also just a matter of what these coaches, if they can really put their heads together and come up with some viable ideas, to execute on the field. I think it can really do wonders for our young guys, and that's really what I'm looking forward to not just this year, but also, like I said, like I mentioned, what kind of foundation can they lay going forward? Because these guys are young. You don't want to have these guys learn a different scheme every year. You don't want these guys having to learn something different. New coaches, new players every year, because like I said, like I mentioned, you can't build chemistry off of that. So I guess what my hope is for 2024, before I get out of here, is that hopefully that McCarthy and Zimmer can establish something that can be built upon, something that the foundation can lay their hat on. It's something that they can fall back on when they do get in trouble, at game time, when they do say they fall behind by a score, maybe by 10 points or so, no more than that. But be able to figure out ways to be able to claw back in some of these close games and be able to keep opponent, like Zimmer said, be able to keep opponents from scoring as much, because that's really how the Cowboys get in trouble. That's really how they got in trouble, really, last year and really in the past, when the opponent gets up too far, or when they're allowing the opponent to score too many points, or not maintaining possession of the ball is when the Cowboys get in trouble. So hopefully with this, with new coaches coming in, new players coming in, they'll be able to establish some kind of chemistry, and be able to, we're going to see, OTAs coming up this week. We're going to see how the news cycle looks. Hopefully more exciting news, going forward. And like I said, camp is going to be here soon. And I'm just really excited for the season. Like I said, getting more and more excited to see what these young players can bring, to our team, and what these coaches can really do to mold them. So that's really it for me tonight, you guys. I appreciate everybody coming through. Like I said, for really my first show back of the year, like period. As far as being on individual tips. So I want to thank everybody for joining me. Like I said, just be patient with me. Hopefully you guys hanging there with me. Like I said, give me a like, give me a share. If you're listening on X/Twitter, give me a retweet. Give me a follow. If you're listening on Twitter, you're not subscribed to me on YouTube, hey, follow me on YouTube. I'm trying to get my followers up there as well. Like I said, I just passed the 200 subscriber mark. So now the next landmark, or next milestone, I should say, I guess, is 300 subscribers. So thank you so much for you guys for listening. Thank you to everybody that was in the chat this evening. Everybody just showing their support. It has really got me through the show, and it's really, like I said, giving me the confidence to kind of get back on here and share my thoughts with you guys. I really appreciate that. I really can't thank you guys enough. That's, like I said, that's it for me tonight, you guys. Make sure you guys, like I said, give me a follow. Follow me on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter/X. Also, give me a follow on Instagram at Cravin Cowboys as well. During the season, and if I am able to get out to camp this year, that's where I post camp pictures, camp videos, things like that. So, thanks again. Yeah, thank you, Stephen White, Troy Dudley, my fave, Swain in the building from earlier, Star. Thank you so much for joining me. Thanks, everybody. Thank you, Troy, as well, for joining me as well. And I love you guys. I'll see you guys next time. Appreciate y'all.